I'm Richard Gearhart, founder of Gearhart Law, a full service intellectual property firm specializing in patents, trademarks, and copyrights.
And I'm Elizabeth Gearhart, not an attorney, but I work at Gearhart Law doing the marketing, and I have my own startup.
Welcome to Passage to Profit, the road to entrepreneurship, where we talk with inventors, small businesses, and discuss the intellectual property that helps them flourish. Today, we have a very special guest, a thought leader of thought leaders, Nikki Ballou. He's the co-founder of eCircle Academy, and he's an advisor for entrepreneurs. And I'm really looking forward to speaking with him.
Me too. And then we have two presenters. We have Daniel Carcillo with Wasana Health. He is going into a brand new area of health, and it's really exciting, and I can hardly wait to hear what he says about this. And then Jav Sid with Cut and Make Crafts. And what she's doing is fascinating. She is so creative, and the things she does are so cool. You just have to hear her explain it.
That sounds great. But before we get to our distinguished guests, it's now time for IP in the news. And what are we discussing today, Elizabeth?
Well, artificial intelligence has been ruled by the patent office that it alone cannot be an intellectual property holder. It
Right.
can't own
can't
it.
be the basis for a patent.
Right. But it's sneaking its way in by doing partnerships with people.
Those sneaky computers. Get ready for the Matrix for sure.
So, right. Do you want to talk about this?
Sure. Yeah. So this is a copyright case, and a New York City artist was granted a copyright for the first time by the Library of Congress for an artistic work that was generated by artificial intelligence. And I really think that that's pretty interesting. First of all, if you're a computer, you can get intellectual property for copyrights, which are artistic works of expression, but you can't get a patent, which patents protect inventions. So it's really interesting how the field of intellectual property and artificial intelligence is evolving, and it seems to be going in two different paths. And I have to say that since copyrights deal with artistic works of expression like movies, books, paintings, sculptures, all of those things, that it's really kind of interesting that a machine can create an artistic work of expression and get past the test for creativity, where normally that would be something you think would be a human trait.
Right. And since this is intellectual property news, I have to give credit. So this was an article on US News written by Adam Schrader. The artist was Chris Castanova, and there's a quote in her. So she said, I tried to make a case that we do own copyright when we make something using AI. I registered it as visual arts work. And so she did have input into it. So it wasn't just AI. It was, I think, her work too. So I just think that's interesting because I think a lot of people are using AI to.
Right. And approval by the Copyright Office is sort of a stamp of our artisticness, right? And creativity. And so the fact that machines are evolving now to the point where they can meet that standard, which we only thought humans could meet, is interesting comment on the development of technology.
So creators, feel free to use AI. It's not
what's
going to
funny
hurt you,
is a lot of
apparently.
the artists I know are like computer phobic, right? They would not touch one if they didn't have to. But anyway, it's time for Richard's Roundtable. Nikki Ballou, welcome to the show. So nice to have you here. What are your thoughts on this?
I gotta say, it's fascinating as all get out that the government is recognizing that machines can create art and is granting copyrights to them. I'm curious as to why they wouldn't also recognize patents in the same way, but it leaves opportunities open for producers and creators to use these machines to create a lot of good work. So I think that's good.
Yeah, I mean, as long as the work is moving, right, and it is creative and does something for you on an emotional level, does it matter whether a human created it or a computer? That's an interesting question. Let's go to Daniel. Daniel, what are your thoughts on this?
It's an interesting world that we're living in. but it's exciting. And I think that if you can get creative enough and work within the constructs of getting protection and IP around building a business and setting that foundation, I think all the power to people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think if there's any downsides to this. I mean, um,
Well,
what
I
if you
mean,
just have a computer that spits out gazillions of drawings and then they register these things and now the company goes around suing everybody
well,
who
where does
makes
the
it themselves.
programmer come in on this too?
Right.
So, I mean, the programmer was the one that programmed the artificial intelligence. What are their rights? I mean, it could be a mess.
Yep. It could. Jeff, welcome to the show. What are your thoughts?
Thank you so much for having me here. Well, it's kind of tricky. Like in one way, it's a really good thing that there are laws in this area because as someone who sells digital cut files, digital graphics, uh, it gets very complicated at times when users don't understand what their rights are and how they're supposed to work with the files, and they take it very lightly. Now that there are laws which are related to the machines, it's like we are moving forward rather than moving backward. So I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that for once the law is kind of keeping up in technology. Usually it lags behind it for, about 5 years, but in this case they're addressing the question early. And as Nikki said, it's an interesting world, and we're fortunate to be in a position where we can just kind of follow along with this. So